Bob Backlund. Robert Louis Backlund, born August 14, 1949, is an American retired professional wrestler with an in-ring career spanning over 30 years, best known for his tenures in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation/World Wrestling Federation, WWWF/WWF, later known as World Wrestling Entertainment and currently simply known as WWE, where he is a two-time WWF/WWF Heavyweight Champion/WWF World Heavyweight Champion. Backlund's first reign is the second longest reign in the title history, behind Bruno Sammartino's first, as well as being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. Backlund was an accomplished amateur wrestler for the North Dakota State University Bison from the late 1960s to early 1970s. In 2000, he unsuccessfully ran for a Connecticut seat in Congress on a Republican ticket. Early life. Backlund was born in Princeton, Minnesota, in 1949. He is a graduate of Princeton High School, where he was a state finalist in wrestling. During his freshman year while at Waldorf Junior College in Forest City, Iowa, Backlund was an All-American in both football and wrestling, 191 pounds, finishing third. During his sophomore campaign, Backlund focused on wrestling and once again earned All-American honors, 190 pounds and national runner-up. Backlund was an amateur wrestler at North Dakota State University, winning the Division II NCAA championship at 190 pounds in 1971. In 1972 Backlund moved up to the heavyweight class and finished fifth at the NCAA DI Nationals. He graduated from North Dakota State University with a degree in physical education. Professional wrestling career. Early career, 1973-1977. Backlund was trained for professional wrestling by renowned trainer Eddie Sharkey and made his debut for the American Wrestling Association, AWA, in 1973. Backlund's clean-cut look and technical approach made him a natural face, and he quickly got over with the fans. After leaving the AWA, Backlund traveled the United States, working for the National Wrestling Alliance in its various territories. In 1974, Backlund wrestled in Texas, for Dory Funk, Jr. and Terry Funk's Amarillo, Texas-based Western States Sports Promotion. In March, he defeated Terry Funk for the NWA Western States Heavyweight Championship, the promotion's top title. Backlund held it for 2 months, before losing it to Carl von Steiger in May. In mid-1975, Backlund started working for Georgia Championship Wrestling, GCW. He teamed with Jerry Briscoe to win the NWA Georgia Tag Team Championship from Toru Tanaka and Mr. Fuji in October 1975. They held the championship belts for 2 months before losing to Leigh Thornton and Tony Charles. In 1976, Backlund left Georgia for Championship Wrestling from Florida, CWF, NWA Florida. Here he teamed with Steve Keirn to defeat Bob Orton, Jr. and Bob Roop for the NWA Florida Tag Team Championship. Backlund and Keirn lost the title to the Hollywood Blondes, Buddy Roberts and Jerry Brown, in October 1976. While working for NWA Florida, Backlund also wrestled in St. Louis, Missouri, for Sam Mucknick's St. Louis Wrestling Club. He defeated Harley Race to win the NWA Missouri Heavyweight Championship on April 23, 1976, and he lost the title to Jack Briscoe on November 26. Worldwide Wrestling Federation/World Wrestling Federation. Road to the title and early successes, 1977-1978. In early 1977, Backlund joined Vincent J. McMahon's Worldwide Wrestling Federation. He was managed by the Golden Boy Arnold Skulland. Less than 4 months into his WWF run, Backlund received his first shot at the WWF Heavyweight Championship against superstar Billy Graham, but he lost by countout. Through 1977, Backlund received additional title shots at the champion, and his fortunes started to change. The two went to a double countout in one match, then Backlund defeated Graham, but by countout, the title can only change hands via pinfall or submission. On February 20, 1978, at Madison Square Garden, Backlund finally scored a pinfall victory over Graham and won the title, despite Graham's leg being on the rope during the pinfall. Backlund's early challengers for the title included Spiros Arion, Mr. Fuji, Ivan Koloff, George the Animal Steele, and Ken Patera, and had his first high-profile title match in Japan, defending against Antonio Inoki. He also won a series of rematches against Graham, including an April 1978 steel cage match at Madison Square Garden. 3 days after winning the WWF Heavyweight Championship, Backlund clashed with the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Harley Race in a rare WWF vs NWA title match. Both titles were on the line, but neither changed hands as the two fought to a 60-minute time limit draw. Defending against other champions became a recurring theme in Backlund's run with the title. He faced the AWA World Heavyweight Champion, Nick Bockwinkel, and 2 NWA World Heavyweight Champions, Harley Race 4 times and Ric Flair once. He defeated the NWA Florida Heavyweight Champion Don Muraco. In 1982, he battled international champion Billy Robinson to a 63-minute curfew draw in Montreal. Early in his run, Backlund and Peter Maivia formed a successful tag team and challenged for the WWF World Tag Team Championship, then held by the Yukon Lumberjacks. During a television taping in October 1978, Maivia turned on and attacked him and Skulland. In the immediate aftermath, fans for the first time got to see another side of Backlund's personality, that of a raving, ranting maniac when angered or pushed hard enough. In the post-match interview, Backlund screamed to interviewer Vince McMahon that he was going to kill that son of a bitch. Backlund eventually won a series of matches against Maivia, including a steel cage match in January 1979 at Madison Square Garden. In 1979, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWWF, became the World Wrestling Federation, WWF. On November 30, 1979, NWF Heavyweight Champion Antonio Inoki defeated Backlund in Tokushima, Japan to win the WWF title. Backlund then won a rematch on December 6. However, WWF President Hisashi Shinma declared the rematch a no contest due to interference from Tiger Jeet Singh, and Inoki remained champion. Inoki refused the title on the same day, and it was declared vacant. Backlund later defeated Bobby Duncombe in a Texas death match to regain the title on December 17. As Inoki refused the title, his reign is not included nor is it recognized by WWE in its official history. On August 9, 1980, Backlund teamed with Pedro Morales to capture the WWF Tag Team Championship from the Wild Samoans at Showdown at Shea. Backlund and Morales were forced to vacate the title due to a then extant WWF rule stating that no one can hold 2 championships at the same time. Backlund had more tag team success when he, along with Antonio Inoki, won the 1980 Message Tag Team League Tournament, last defeating Hulk Hogan and Stan Hansen on December 10 in Osaka, Japan. Backlund and Inoki finished the tournament with 7 wins and 2 double count-out decisions. Also during 1980, Backlund and Hogan met in a series of highly publicized matches. Although he scored several count-out victories over Hogan, Backlund never was able to score a decisive victory over his charismatic young challenger, and Hogan, showing flashes of his future superstardom, proved to be one of Backlund's toughest opponents. Backlund was also able to overcome a challenge from Ken Patera, with whom he feuded on and off from 1978 until early 1981, including during Patera's reign as WWF Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. Early 1980s, continued success. Backlund's WWF Heavyweight Championship was held up after a match in New York City against Greg the Hammer Valentine on October 19, 1981, after a dazed referee accidentally gave the championship belt to Valentine as part of the storyline. It constituted an interruption of Backlund's title reign. However, Backlund was billed as the WWF Heavyweight Champion in other cities in the days following the controversy. In the early part of the 1980s, when no promotion held nationally televised events, it was not uncommon practice to hold up the title in one area, to build interest in a rematch the former champion would win, while ignoring the situation in other parts of the territory. On November 23, Backlund pinned Valentine for the vacant in New York only WWF Heavyweight Championship. A rematch for the title, held inside a steel cage at the Philadelphia Spectrum in January 1982, also saw Backlund emerge the winner, securing the victory when he hit a pile driver on Valentine into the mat. Even with the title being held up against Antonio Inoki and Greg Valentine, Bob Backlund is recognized by WWE as having one continuous title reign from 1978 to 1983 as WWE Champion. Backlund continued to be successful into 1982 and 1983, successfully defending against a variety of contenders, ranging from Adrian Adonis, Cowboy Bob Orton, Big John Studd, Ivan Koloff, Magnificent Muraco and Sergeant Slaughter. One of his most memorable encounters came in mid-1982, when he won a steel cage match against Superfly Jimmy Snuka. In that match, at Madison Square Garden, Snuka scaled the top of the cage, intending to perform his Superfly splash onto a prone Backlund to incapacitate him, but Backlund moved after Snuka began to fly through the air and went on to escape the cage. He also turned back a challenge from superstar Billy Graham, who returned to the WWF in late 1982 wanting to reclaim the championship. End of an era. After having been popular with the fans from early on, in the final months of his title reign, Backlund changed his image, cutting his mop hair into a crew cut, wearing amateur wrestling singlets and losing muscle mass and definition. Fans seemingly grew weary of this howdy-doody character, as the Grand Wizard had dubbed him. In 1983, he was voted the Wrestling Observer newsletter's most overrated wrestler. Vince McMahon, who had bought the WWF from his father, wanted to put the title on the more charismatic and muscular Hulk Hogan. McMahon initially suggested Backlund to turn heel and lose to Hogan, but when Backlund refused, a transitional champion became necessary between Backlund and Hogan. Backlund sustained a kayfabe arm injury when the Iron Sheik assaulted him with his Persian clubs, and on December 26, 1983, Backlund lost the title to Sheik when Backlund's manager, Arnold Skulland, threw in the towel while Backlund was locked in the camel clutch. Due to Backlund's kayfabe injury, Hogan took over Backlund's rematch and became the new WWF World Heavyweight Champion. However, this was a television storyline only. Backlund wrestled the Iron Sheik at least 3 times for the title, all at non-televised house shows, including once at the Boston Garden, winning by disqualification, and also wrestled the Magnificent Muraco for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, also at a non-televised house show. Backlund continued to work for the WWF for a while after the title change, but did not receive another title shot for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship after Hogan's victory. On August 4, 1984, Backlund defeated Salvatore Bellomo in his last WWF match for 8 years. After the WWF and semi-retirement, 1984-1992. After leaving the WWF, Backlund had a run in the short-lived Pro Wrestling USA, a joint promotion of the NWA and the AWA, meant to combat the national expansion of the WWF. In Pro Wrestling USA, Backlund unsuccessfully challenged AWA World Heavyweight Champion Rick Martel. He soon dropped out of the pro wrestling scene, but he made a surprise return in 1991 for Herb Abrams' short-lived Universal Wrestling Federation, UWF. At Beach Brawl, the UWF's only pay-per-view event, he defeated Ivan Koloff. Backlund also wrestled for newborn UWF and UWF International in Japan, in a series of matches with Nobuhiko Takada. During his time away from the ring, he coached amateur wrestling at Bacon Academy and Rocky Hill High School in Connecticut. Returned to WWF, 1992-1997, 2000. In 1992, Backlund returned to the WWF. During his absence, the WWF had expanded into an international wrestling promotion, due in part to the colorful characters of the Rock and Wrestling Connection era, which Hulk Hogan helped to kickstart 8 years prior. Backlund, whose persona remained the same as it was in his heyday, seemed to be out of step with the evolution of the WWF. Many fans did not remember him, as he had left just prior to Vince McMahon's national expansion. His initial return to the WWF was largely uneventful and he mainly wrestled mid-card matches. However, at the 1993 Royal Rumble, Backlund, the number 2 entrant, lasted 61 minutes and 10 seconds, a duration record that stood until 2004, when Chris Benoit broke it. Backlund's first appearance at WrestleMania was the 9 edition, where he was quickly pinned by Razor Ramon. Backlund also received several shots at the Intercontinental Championship, then held by Shawn Michaels. On the July 30, 1994, episode of Superstars, Backlund wrestled what was billed as an Old Generation vs. New Generation match with Bret Hart, with Hart's WWF World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Over the preceding weeks, the WWF aired vignettes of Backlund training for this match. Hart won the match, capitalizing after Backlund mistakenly believed he had won and helped Hart to his feet. Backlund snapped after Hart repeatedly tried to offer a sportsmanlike handshake following the match. He slapped Hart in the face and locked him in the cross-face chicken wing submission hold, while screaming hysterically. After finally releasing the hold, Backlund stared at his hands in apparent shock. Backlund then started to regularly snap in similar fashion during his matches, viciously attacking his opponent with the cross-face chicken wing and refusing to release it after the opponent submitted. He would then seemingly snap back to normal and appear horrified by what he had done. On an episode of Monday Night Raw, shortly after his match with Hart, Backlund claimed that he should still be considered the legitimate WWF World Heavyweight Champion, as he had not been pinned by the Iron Sheik, nor submitted to the camel clutch. Backlund continued wrestling under the new gimmick of an out-of-touch and highly volatile eccentric, out to teach the new generation a lesson. He dressed in business suits, complete with a bow tie, had a hyperactive personality and used, and often misused, for comic effect, large words during his interviews. He demanded that he be addressed as Mr. Backlund, and he would only sign autographs for wrestling fans if they could recite the names of all of the United States presidents in chronological order. On several instances, he assaulted wrestlers and other WWF employees and placed them in the cross-face chicken wing. These victims include Jim Ross, Duke the Dumpster Droese, WWF magazine writer Lou Gianfrido, and his former manager Arnold Skolland, who he blamed for costing him the WWF Heavyweight Championship in 1983. On November 23, 1994, at the Survivor Series pay-per-view in San Antonio, Texas, Backlund faced Bret Hart in a special submission match for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, where the only way for a wrestler to win was to have the opponent's valet, like Arnold Skolland did for Backlund over a decade earlier, stop the match by throwing a towel into the ring. Backlund began displaying a white towel that he claimed was the same one that was thrown into the ring the night he lost to the Iron Sheik. To serve as his second for the match, Backlund paired up with Owen Hart, the brother and chief rival of the reigning champion who had tried and failed multiple times that year to wrest the belt from Bret. Late in the match, as Backlund was locked in Hart's trademark sharpshooter submission, Owen entered the ring and attacked Bret from behind to cause him to break the hold. Bret's cornerman for the match, Davey Boy Smith, chased Owen around the ring only to collide headfirst with the ring stairs. When Bret turned around to argue with his brother, Backlund took advantage and locked the cross-face chicken wing on the champion. Hart fought the hold for an unprecedented 8.5 minutes, but refused to give up. Since Smith was unconscious on the floor, he was unable to save Hart. Owen took advantage by picking up the pink and black towel Smith carried and, feigning concern for the well-being of his brother, approached his father Stu and his mother Helen, who were seated at ringside. As Backlund continued to cinch in the cross-face chicken wing in the ring, Owen pleaded for his parents to stop the match. Stu refused, not trusting Owen's motives. Helen, however, did not want to see Bret risk further injury, and she grabbed the towel and threw it into the ring. Backlund was awarded the championship and celebrated in the ring, while Owen rejoiced in finally having cost his brother the championship. After the match, Backlund conducted a brief interview which he concluded by screaming how he felt like God. Backlund's second reign as WWF World Heavyweight Champion was brief, as he lost the title 3 days later to Diesel at a non-televised show in Madison Square Garden, the site of many of Backlund's victories in the 1970s and 1980s. Diesel kicked Backlund in the stomach, hit him with a jackknife powerbomb and pinned him in 8 seconds. 4 weeks afterwards, fans jeered Backlund with chants of 8 seconds. 8 seconds. In a 2005 interview for the Pro Wrestling Torch, Kevin Nash, aka Diesel, recalled how Backlund sold his jackknife powerbomb by crawling up the aisleway, back to the dressing room area of the Garden. Nash said, "He couldn't have put me over any stronger." This match was the last time the WWF World Heavyweight Championship changed hands at a non-televised event, and aside from Money in the Bank cash-ins, this match remains the shortest WWF title match ever. In fact, it would be tied by Randy Orton cashing in his Money in the Bank contract on Daniel Bryan at the 2013 SummerSlam. After the title loss, Backlund wrestled progressively less often, never again reaching main event status. One of his final WWF matches was an I Quit match against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 11 on April 2, 1995, which Backlund lost, even though he never actually said "I quit," instead screaming unintelligibly into the microphone, which special guest referee Roddy Piper seemed to interpret as "I quit." Following WrestleMania, the WWF ran an angle in which Backlund declared his candidacy for President of the United States. Several vignettes aired, featuring Backlund preaching socially conservative values, and one showed him campaigning at a beach. Backlund also confronted a Bill Clinton impersonator who was seated at ringside at the 1995 Survivor Series. This angle was quietly dropped before it reached a conclusion. From late 1996 to early 1997, Backlund joined forces with his old nemesis, the Iron Sheik, to manage the Sultan in the WWF. He left the WWF shortly after In Your House 14, Revenge of the Taker on April 20, where he managed the Sultan in his win over Flash Funk. In 1999, Backlund appeared on an episode of Sunday Night Heat in a skit in which himself, the Iron Sheik, and Dominic DeNucci gave comedic advice to Mankind before his WWF Championship match with The Rock. Backlund returned to the WWF in the 2000 Royal Rumble. After that, he briefly managed Intercontinental and European Champion Kurt Angle, and he taught his cross-face chicken wing submission hold to Angle. Later on, Angle fired Backlund and locked him in that move, after discovering Backlund had booked him in a two-fall triple threat match against Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, with both of his titles on the line, at WrestleMania 2000, where he ultimately lost both titles. Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, 2007. After many references to Bob Backlund were made by Kevin Nash, he officially debuted in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA, in January 2007, at the Final Resolution pay-per-view, judging the finals of the Paparazzi Championship Series, PCS, between Alex Shelley and Austin Starr. Given the tie-breaking vote, Backlund launched a long explanation before declaring his decision a draw, and the match was restarted by PCS director Kevin Nash. After Shelley won the match, Starr pie-faced Backlund because he believed Backlund had cost him the match, at which Backlund responded by putting Starr in the cross-face chicken wing. At Against All Odds, 2007, after Senshi defeat Austin Starr, Backlund came out and put his own chicken wing on Starr before dragging him to the back. Backlund then began to make regular appearances on Impact. During this time, he was described as crazy and weird by commentators Don West and Mike Tenay, somewhat similar to the Mr. Backlund gimmick of his second WWF tenure. At Destination X, 2007, Backlund was in the corner of Austin Starr, who lost to Senshi in a cross-face chicken wing match. At Lockdown, 2007, Backlund was the special guest referee in a 6 sides of steel match where Senshi defeated Austin Starr. Backlund made his in-ring return at Slammiversary, where he defeated Alex Shelley. He then teamed with Jerry Lynn to lose to Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, managed by Kevin Nash, at Victory Road. When TNA redesigned their website, Backlund's profile was removed, signaling the end of his run with the company. Second return to WWE, 2007-2017. On the 15th anniversary episode of Raw on December 10, 2007, Backlund participated in the 15th anniversary Battle Royal, along with 14 other wrestlers from Raw's 15-year history. Backlund was eliminated from the match by Skinner. On the July 9, 2012, episode of Raw, after Heath Slater's match with Sin Cara, Slater issued a challenge to any past champion as part of a weekly series of Legend appearances. Backlund emerged from backstage to answer this challenge and, as Backlund entertained the crowd, Slater kicked him in the stomach and mocked him. Backlund responded by putting Slater in the cross-face chicken wing, which he refused to break for 20 seconds after Slater had tapped out. He later appeared on Raw 1000 with all of the other legends who had faced Slater over prior weeks, helping Lita chase Slater back into the ring when he tried to run away from Lita and the APA. Backlund was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame on April 6, 2013, by his friend Maria Menounos, and was acknowledged on stage with the year's other inductees at WrestleMania 29. Backlund made an appearance on the October 7, 2013, episode of Raw, unsuccessfully attempting to canvass votes in order to become the special guest referee for the WWE Championship match at Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels later won a public vote and was named as the special guest referee. However, Backlund did appear in a segment at Hell in a Cell together with the Primetime Players, where they played WWE 2K14. Since April 2014, he has served as an ambassador for WWE. On the May 5, 2016, episode of SmackDown, Backlund was asked by Darren Young to be his life coach, and Backlund agreed, vowing to make Darren Young great again. Over the next several months, various vignettes featuring Young and Backlund aired, with Backlund assuming the role of Young's life coach. On the July 11 episode of Raw, Young won a battle royal to become the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. At Battleground, Young faced The Miz in a match that resulted in a double countout after he applied the cross-face chicken wing to Miz outside the ring to protect Backlund from Miz and Maryse. On July 19 at the 2016 WWE Draft, Backlund and Young were drafted to Raw. In early 2017, after Young got injured, Backlund ceased appearing on TV. On October 29, 2017, Young was released from WWE, ending the storyline. Backlund's profile on WWE.com was then moved to the Hall of Fame page shortly afterwards. Books. Backlund's autobiography, The All-American Boy, Lessons and Stories on Life from Wrestling Legend Bob Backlund, was released on September 18, 2015. The 352-page book, contributed to by Robert H. Miller, includes interviews with Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, The Iron Sheik and Vince McMahon. Acting career. Backlund was a guest on MTV's Singled Out, where he acted in sketches with hosts Jenny McCarthy and Chris Hardwick. He played the role of Friar Chuck, alongside Maria Menounos and John Waters, in the feature film comedy In the Land of Merry Misfits. The film played at the 2007 Tribeca Film Festival, where Backlund appeared and signed autographs. Personal life. Backlund and his wife, high school physical education teacher Corky, have a daughter named Carrie. They live in Glastonbury, Connecticut. In 2000, Backlund unsuccessfully ran for a Congress seat from Connecticut. Championships and accomplishments.